see 5 drawers that you could reach in and pull towards you. Those aren't the same 5 drawers. Those drawers switch. So here in the top image, you can see that the main drawer is slid to the right, and there's 5 drawers that you can access. But at the same time, there's an additional 5 drawers that are hidden inside that structure. So the lower picture is not a way that the piece would ever exist normally. I just pulled all those parts out and I put them that way for purposes of illustration. And then the next iteration of this works a little bit differently. Once again, you have a central sliding unit that you have to fine-tune. But this is based upon the principle of a vernier caliper, which is a really, really cool tool, which is a system of non-aligned marks that are a way to allow you to see 1/1000th of an inch. Because you can very clearly see if marks are lined up or not. And it's a really cool machinist way of reading accurately up to 1/1000th of an inch, especially in the pre-digital caliper days. And so this was really a game of non-alignment, where there's 5 interior drawers, and you can always see all 5 drawers. You can always reach through the gaps and sort of rattle them around, but in order to access any particular drawer, you actually have to fine-tune the central unit. So in the upper unit right now, you can access that drawer over on the right. You can't pull out any of the other ones, and then in the lower image, you could pull out that baby blue one, but none of the other ones. So it's sort of, I don't know. It's a little bit, it's about, I'm interested in this moving picture that happens inside each one of these windows. And then the third iteration of this work got turned inside out, so that instead of sliding in an interior drawer, you actually slide the whole outer case of the piece. So these big handles on the front are supposed to be visual cues that you grab them and slide the whole thing. The guts of the cabinet remain bolted to the wall. Those yellow parts can be a little bit confusing. Those are just braces to make the thing a little more stable on the wall. And you can see, I think, in that upper image that the cabinet is currently slid to the left, and you can see 5 interior drawers, and they can be pulled out. And there in the upper shot, you see the transition between the two, and then in the lower shot, you can see that it's slid to the right. And so that upper shot, you can kind of see a little bit of all the different drawers that you could possibly access. So there's 10 drawers hidden inside the cabinet. And in many ways, I think this was the most successful iteration of these cabinets. And these could be somewhat confusing. And I had an interesting experience when I was working in my shop, and I had a little screwdriver, and I put it in a drawer, and I went back to look for it a little bit later, and I opened the drawer, and the screwdriver was gone. But of course, it wasn't gone. It was just that it was now in a drawer that was hidden inside the cabinet and was not accessible. So I sort of confused myself, which was good. This is actually the same structure as the other one. It's just carved and painted in a different way. So slid to the left, transitional state, and then slid to the right. So I'm still sort of thinking through this idea of insides and outsides and chests of drawers. And this particular set of boxes was really thinking about can you do a chest of drawers which engages with the architecture and does not have a structure which holds a traditional structure which holds it in place. So it's really a chest of drawers bolted to the wall. And here is a somewhat similar, but a little bit different. This is it's kind of an exercise in, it's really a dialogue between the drawer itself and then the knob on the front. And it's a kind of a counter-instinctual relationship where you start on the left with a big drawer and a small knob, and as the knob gets bigger as you go to the right, it kind of sucks the life out of the drawer, and you end up over here on the right with this very, very large sort of watermelon-sized knob that you pull out with this very small reward behind it. And again, looking at ways to create internal spaces without a sort of a traditional traditional carcass as it's usually spoken of in the furniture tradition. These were inspired by some Plains Indian. It's actually tiki furniture. It's not the tiki itself. Inside the tiki in this exhibition, they actually had furniture that one would lean against, and I thought they were just really, really beautiful objects. So I floated these boxes inside that structure. And this is actually this is about a 7-foot tall piece that I did as part of an exhibition at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, where a bunch of us were invited to make work that was based on the historical collection. I was working from it's not exactly a Chippendale piece, it's really more of a Queen Anne sort of box-on-box piece. And it was, again, taking that idea of this traditional square carcass and blowing it apart so that each box is contained within another separate box and sort of piling them up. They are bolted to each other, they're not loose, so they won't slide around, but they do have that sort of off-kilter and stacked up sort of look. I think one of the things that I should mention is that even as I'm experimenting with all this carving and painting, the work is all made still using very traditional woodworking techniques. The drawers are done using the way drawers are meant to be built. And it's a little bit of the curse of the sort of the woodworking tradition is that once you learn the way that stuff is supposed to be built, you kind of have to do it that way. And so that's been that sort of ongoing battle for me over the years, is trying to find ways to work quickly but still honor the intelligence and the smartness of the construction systems that have been developed over the years. And so I've done a lot of chests of drawers. These are pretty straightforward conceptually. They're all using a 6x6 drawer module, and I really just use them to experiment with color and surface and pattern, which is an extremely enjoyable part of my creative practice. I just love. So really you're looking at families of sort of green blues alternating with families of orangey reds, but all of the colors are different from each other. So if you were seeing it in person, there's a lot going on with the color relationships. I spend a lot of time fussing with that, and I really enjoy that part of my work. And now, a little bit of a different sort of dialogue about this carcass, interior, exterior thing that I've been talking about. This is about as generic. This is a full-size chest of drawers with the outer carcass totally generic, classic kind of carcass piece. But then playing around with the internal space and really messing with them and inserting all sorts of complications. So drawers within drawers, and drawers within drawers within drawers, and drawers that open sideways, and so that the internal space of the drawer becomes quite complex. So there's the drawer that comes out sideways and then forward, and then another version. And as you can see a little bit in this lower right image, that you end up with a fairly complex interior space. And so I'm interested in that notion of this is definitely a functional object, but if you're the user, what is the correct way to use this piece? What goes in different places? And it's a functional object, but it asks some questions as it works for you. This one is at the Milwaukee Art Museum, and they have that sometimes. And another very large chest of drawers, which is doing a little bit of a different thing. It's got 18 drawers that range from super duper small, there's the super duper small one, which can hold chopsticks or a pencil, up to about as large as you can make a drawer using sort of traditional woodworking construction systems. And so providing this whole sort of inventory of drawer sizes, and again asking that question, what's the right thing to put in each drawer? What would it be like to use this object? And then the other thing that's going on is I think would again hark back to that sort of shaker aesthetic and that real attention to scale and proportion and all the stuff that your teachers talk to you about in your foundations classes. And I spend a lot of time, this was drawn out on paper, and just spending a lot of time looking where each line falls in relation to each other line, and moving things a quarter of an inch and really finding that it makes a big difference. working on these sort of diagonal alignments that happen through the knobs. I can't really see them from this strange angle. I should be looking here. But really paying attention to that question of proportion and scale and getting all that stuff right. I think it's such a simple piece. I think if it was screwed up in terms of those basic questions, it wouldn't work. And then also, I've done quite a bit of work where it's pairs of chest of drawers. These are really big, full-size chest of drawers. But one of the things that's going on here is on the one on the right is inverting that that sort of thing that we visually understand, that the small drawers are at the top and the big drawers are at the bottom. So turning it upside down, what happens when you make the two pieces so they're palindromes of each other, visual palindromes of each other. Another pair of chest of drawers. And another. So I'm going to shift over and taking you through a lot of pieces that have interiors, exteriors, that contain volumes. I'm going to move into talking about seating in chairs, which is another sort of major direction in my work. This is a bunch of chairs from not that long ago that are looking at the notion of a set. And what is a set? So it's what's the only constant here is the height of the seats. And what you're really looking at is a visual graph of two things. You're looking at a graph, as you go from left to right, you're looking at a graph of skinny to fat. So the three left chairs are very, very skinny in their proportion. The three right chairs are very, very fat. And then as you move along the left axis from the front to the back, you're going from small to medium to tall. So you end up with a set of 9 different chairs. And so the challenge for me was within that set of 9 chairs, could I come up with 9 chairs that work proportionally, that are actually visually functional objects? And then what happens when you end up with a set of 9 objects? How does their personality change? How do they fit different sorts of people? So that starts to bump into the Goldilocks question. You know, what chair is right for what person? How would a group of people, this is the middle chair, the sort of most basic, generic chair. And as you move out from this chair, then different things change. So those are the 3 in the back, the 3 in the middle, the 3 in the front. So it's that question of what would a group of people do? How would they organize themselves? Who grabs that big, that big sort of, I don't know what to call it, the big chair, and who goes for the small chair? And how would people organize themselves? Maybe you use different chairs on different days depending on your. This is a full-size reversible chair that sort of each chair gives you a choice between a rocking chair and a conventional chair. So here you see one set up with the rockers down and the other set up with the conventional legs down. So either one, whichever one you choose, you always have the other one towering over your head, especially when the rockers are up. It's sort of an imposing thing up there. So this is actually the same chair. So in this case, when the rockers are down, the color scheme that you see is predominantly dark blacks and grays. Then if you flip the whole thing over, it has a lighter kind of color scheme. And still working with rockers. These were paired rockers that obviously rock in the opposite axis. They rock from left to right instead of front to back. But it starts to get into the question of sort of social aspects of the seating, which is going to come up again. But the notion that these chairs require collaboration. So these are my son and my daughter when they were so cute. And all I had to do was buy them an ice cream and they would model. And so the idea is that with 2 people sitting, you actually, working together, you can rock quite effectively side to side. It's an enjoyable experience. But in this particular one, if one person gets up, it becomes unbalanced. It doesn't really work. So it doesn't work. This one doesn't work as a single seat. This one has a change which does allow it to work a little bit as a single seat. The 2 are leaning inward. So Cecil's pretty much stays upright when the other person gets up. And then this is a traditional format for 2 chairs. We often call it a tete-a-tete arrangement, where the 2 people face each other. And in many ways, it's the most intimate of the paired rockers that I did. And then the last one has the